radio ownership, and more. Broadcasting live on Let's Live Radio this Thursday at 2 p.m. Listen on letsliveradio.com or download our free app. Watch live on. This just in, NOLA's own Wendell Pierce returns home, and he is stopping by at Let's Live Radio. We are talking B.B. King biopic, WBOK radio ownership, and more. Broadcasting live on Let's Live Radio this Thursday at 2 p.m. Listen on letsliveradio.com or download our free app. Watch live on letsliveradio.com or on Let's Live Radio's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. Question or comments? Call into the show at 504-294-LIVE. That's 504-294-5483. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. This just in, NOLA's own Wendell Pierce returns home, and he is stopping by at Let's Live Radio. We are talking B.B. King biopic, WBOK radio ownership, and more. Broadcasting live on Let's Live Radio this Thursday at 2 p.m. Listen on letsliveradio.com or download our free app. Watch live on letsliveradio.com or on Let's Live Radio's Facebook.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Let's Live Radio in beautiful Executive Plaza, this lovely room that we're in, the Skyline Room. And I listened to you all on radio, Elder Roz and Rochelle,
yes,
on Let's Live Radio, and now we are getting ready for a very exciting guest.
Yes, we are. So excited.
So I'm so excited because we're back together again. A couple weeks ago we were here, so today we're just so excited for all those that are tuning in.
Yes.
I do want to say this too. Invite, share, tell somebody, listen, we have a
Yes.
wonderful show on today as we have one of our own, a New Orleanian,
That's right.
So who is that, Rochelle?
Wendell Pierce.
Pierce is coming today.
Yes.
We are so excited. So like, share, tell somebody to join the watch party on today because we're actually going to have a wonderful conversation on today.
A great conversation. Get to hear all the amazing things that he's going to be doing about the biopic, the WBOK, just so many amazing things going to take place on the day, and the conversation is going to be great. So you do not want to miss that. So please call in, be a part of the conversation, ask questions. 504-294-LIVE. Be part of the conversation. It's going to be a great show on today.
Yes, and you know what? I don't have to wear my mask because we're all sitting so
Separate.
far apart.
Yes.
So we can spread out here.
How many feet? 6.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I was so intrigued last night and the days before as I was just reading a lot about what Mr. Pierce has done, and it was phenomenal.
Oh, my goodness.
I was scrolling. I was looking at
Yes.
him. He's really phenomenal in his own right, not just in the acting world, but just he's involved in politics.
Yes.
He has a voice, and
Very
I
passionate.
love it because he's stepping up and taking a stand about so much.
And it was part of the group that purchased WBOK,
Yes.
Correct.
keeping that radio station alive,
Yes.
and that's really a part of our community.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
he's
It
done so
is.
much. He calls himself tri-coastal. He has homes in New York,
Yes.
Los Angeles, and New Orleans.
Wow, isn't that
And
amazing?
he is a native son. The fact that he
Yes.
is so devoted to his community
He
says a
is.
lot about him.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know the movie, the things that he's been in. You've seen him as Detective Bunk in The Wire.
Yes.
Yes.
He was a trombonist in Treme. He even
Yes.
learned how to play the trombone
Isn't that
for the
something?
role.
Yes.
I mean, he is a working actor.
So I'm waiting for
And-
Miss Sally Ann to get to the one that I know. I know Rochelle might know what I'm talking about.
What?
Was it Waiting at
Wait
Exhale?
and tell. That was the
I
movie.
remember Waiting
Oh,
at
my
Exhale.
goodness.
Yes, you can't forget that.
Everywhere
Remember.
you look, you see Wendell Pierce.
Yes.
He's had guest appearances.
Yes.
He had guest appearances on Law and Order. He is a star of Tom Clancy's Jack
That's
Ryan.
right. Yes.
We're waiting for the third season to
The
come
third
out.
season.
Oh yeah, and you know he played Meghan Markle's father
Isn't that
Yes.
in
awesome?
Suits.
Right. So
I
he's
love
done
that
it all.
role.
He really is well-rounded. animated, TV, film, or even on stage. His stage
Yes.
plays have been wonderful abroad. So it's amazing the work that he has done.
He has been in over 30 movies.
Yeah.
Not counting the television shows.
Right.
Just
Correct.
the movies itself.
I forgot what he called it, like trifecta. I think I was reading. He
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
trifecta. He does it all in all three. So, and he's doing a wonderful job about it.
Yes, and he just had a very good role on stage last year. He played Willie Loman
Yes.
in The Death of a Salesman,
Correct.
and critically acclaimed,
Yes.
and he won awards for that. So he has just done so many things, and he's also very active in sharing his opinion. And one of the things that I just saw that I recommend to everyone to see, Between the World and Me,
Yes.
Ta-Nehisi Coates,
Yes.
his book, and it is very hard-hitting, and it really, regardless of your race, it's something that everyone should see.
I agree.
Because it tells the story of our participation in this country, and the fact that so many of us suffered in this country.
Correct.
But we continue on. We persevere. The perseverance.
That's what I love about
Yes,
him
the
and
fight.
the roles that he has taken on. I really, and I can't wait to ask him this, the preparation that goes into it,
Yeah.
but he really takes pride in it. He really puts himself into it, even with The Death of a Salesman, just showing it in a different light. I remember the history of me knowing it was with one particular race, but it never was said that it had to be one particular race. He showed it in different facets, and that's what I love. He doesn't mind taking a stand to make a difference, even in his acting.
In his acting,
Not many
yes.
people are willing to do that,
He puts
to
in
be a
the work.
spokesperson.
He puts in the work.
Yeah.
He does his own work, does his research, and he puts himself in that position.
Absolutely.
It's not that he's acting that role. He's actually being that person.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
that
he
makes a
becomes that
difference.
person.
He
Yeah,
becomes
right.
that
He becomes that
individual. That
person,
makes
yeah.
a difference in the film.
That's right. Yeah, big difference. Yeah, he
And
becomes
his
that
roles,
person.
he's so memorable.
Yes.
I'll never forget that episode of Law and Order that he played an African royalty that was going astray, and you could not take your eyes off of him.
Yes, yes.
And I still think about that role.
And then he also has a couple of roles in Chicago PD, which was amazing as
Really?
well. Yes.
I remember one
Yes.
of those. My kids probably could help me out. You remember the series of I don't know, was it Twilights? He was in that. I remember him
yeah.
sitting at the
Lifestyle.
table. Yes, see, I knew he was sitting there making a move. He was making a deal. I remember him sitting at the table. I just could remember that part of the scene. So yeah, he's multifaceted. He's been in so many different types, and he becomes, as you say, he takes on that
Yes,
role and
takes on
becomes
that
it
role.
and plays it very well.
Amazing all around.
Yeah.
And he is somebody who is following what's going on. If you follow him on Twitter or
Yes.
Facebook, he keeps,
Yes.
he's I would say an essayist as well. That he is a deep thinker and writer, and he shares
Yes.
his thoughts. And this is a time when we need to have people like that in the community. He's not one-dimensional. And
right,
he's a graduate of Ben Franklin and NOCA, New
Yes.
Orleans Center for the Creative
Yes.
Arts. And he went
Juilliard.
on to Juilliard,
Yes,
a
Juilliard.
graduate of Juilliard.
Juilliard.
So, I mean, here is an actor, but I'm interested when he gets here. We're gonna be talking as well to Anthony Bean, and
Yes.
Anthony Bean is the
Oh, yeah.
Well
Yes.
known in the community.
the
Exactly.
founder,
Phenomenal
that's
as
right,
well.
Anthony
Right.
Bean Community
Absolutely.
Theater, and he worked with
Exactly.
Wendell when he was a teenager.
Right. Isn't that something?
And
Wow.
and
Look at him now, yeah.
So much comes from New Orleans. That
Yes,
is
we should be
so-
very proud. Yes, yes, we have so much happening here in New Orleans,
Yeah.
and just to see that he, again, as you said, he has homes in many places, but he's still connected to his roots. That says a lot. That he's even giving back into the community. I can remember growing up with WBOK on Sunday morning. We would get up and my mom would have WBOK on the radio, and I just can remember on Sunday mornings. I mean, it was like the only station I ever heard of. WBOK, but that he would step in and even to that still be a part. That's so much history in that one station. So that's wonderful that he would do that.
He wants to keep it alive. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
to keep it alive.
But not only
Absolutely.
did he play in many, like I said, over 30 movies, but he also received many awards as well.
Right, absolutely.
Many
Yes,
awards.
yes.
The list goes on and on. Many
Yes,
awards.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's a great achievement. So many awards.
It
Phenomenal.
is.
And we also have to remember that Wendell has been very instrumental in helping out with the recovery after Katrina. With the housing program, building houses in the Gentilly Woods and Pontchartrain Park. And you know, it's amazing. Someone once said to me, "You never know what you can deal with until you're pushed to the edge." And this community was pushed to the edge. And then we saw people like Wendell Pierce and others come to the forefront and say, hey, we're going to do something here.
I'm going to help.
And so I'm interested in talking to him. And
we all
so excited. Cannot wait.
Yes, we all
we're
are. Absolutely.
Anticipation.
Yes.
And instead
You
of
singing today, Sally Ann? You singing today?
You know, I think instead of me singing, Kelly, why don't you play, if you can find it? No.
So see, that means you have to sing.
No,
So
you have to
Sing it. That's it.
You have to sing.
I was going to say happy birthday to
There you go.
Yeah, when he shows up. But I think we're going to take a break right now with the commercial.
Yes, because we are ready.
The man has arrived.
Yes.
Come on in. Mr. Wendell
in the
Pierce. When we come back from this commercial
on in
break,
the
Wendell
Awesome.
Pierce, the man himself, is here.
Yes.
This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Give a gift this Christmas that will keep on giving. Help a young lady or woman discover her true self, better her relationships, and live the life she's destined to live. There's no better gift than the discovery of your destiny. Order your copy of Me We Wins today at MeWeWins.com, Amazon.com, or at our local community book center located at 2523 Bayou Road in New Orleans.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com. www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com.
This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here with the great Wendell Pierce on Let's Live Radio. We're so happy that you made it here.
I'm so happy to be here. Forgive me for being late. I'm a little verklempt because of the lockdown and all, so I'm always a little off. So my apologies. I'm out of the house. So it's nice.
Well, just the fact that you are here. And I just want to say thank you so much for all that you have done to help your hometown.
Well, thank
From
you.
the houses after Katrina, building the houses in Pontchartrain Park and all of that. Tell us about your upbringing here in New Orleans.
So I was born and raised in Pontchartrain Park. And it was like, I called it a Black Mayberry because, all the mothers and fathers knew all the kids, and if you did something wrong before, like all great neighborhoods in New Orleans, before you got home, your mom and daddy knew about it. Because that's how close knit the community was. It also grew out of one of the great civil rights movements of the mid 20th century. A.P. Turo led the access to green space. Black folks weren't able to go to a park except on Wednesdays, Negro Day, in segregation. So something as ugly as segregation, fought against it. Post-World War II is 1950, and they made demands that they have access to this new burgeoning suburbia that's happening in New Orleans. It's funny that Gentilly was the suburbs then. And because of that advocacy, Pontchartrain Park was born. It was a set-aside as separate but equal. It was where blacks could purchase homes. We took something ugly, separate but equal, and made it into something beautiful. And it became an incubator for black talent and new homes being purchased.
Wow.
And a black community, a historic neighborhood that we just got designation on the National Register of Historic Places. In the middle of Pontchartrain Park is Joseph Bartholomew's golf course.
Yes.
And so 1,000 homes around that. And so that was my little hometown. And I grew up here and then I went to school at Coghill, right in the neighborhood. My mother was a teacher there for 30 plus years. And my father was a maintenance man at UNL, University of New Orleans. And so I would do my homework in the UNO library, meet him after work. And my mother, when I came home, when I was in elementary school, I would come home and all my teachers would be sitting in the living room with my mother, Pierce, he has homework. So I was like, when your mother's the teacher, you're going to get your homework done. And then I went to Osborne and Kenilworth for the Gifted and Talented program, and went to Gregory and then Ben Franklin. And then my acting career started my freshman year at Ben Franklin when they came recruiting for NOCA, the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts.
Oh my goodness, and the rest is history.
Yes.
On to Juilliard and Elder Ross.
So did you have a love for acting? Because I was getting ready to say, where did that segue come? So Mom was already the teacher, so we know education was really big. So were you in your room singing, or were you in your room acting? How did that come about?
I always tell people, it's interesting, acting, the closest thing to acting is psychology. Okay. Right? It's the study of human behavior. So I was curious in a lot of different things. I wanted to be an architect at one time. I wanted to be a lawyer at one time. I thought about being an oceanographer. I always thought all this water around Louisiana. It's very interesting. We in New Orleans do not take advantage of the waterways as much as people outside.
We run
the city.
from water. We don't. Yeah, we don't learn about it
because water has been so damaging to us. But I was interested in it like that. I think that was the curiosity that made me become an actor. Because you're interested in so many different things, and then it made me realize that acting was the closest thing to the study of human behavior.
Wow.
And so it was.
Do you use that in your ongoing work? Because we were just talking before you arrived, and Rochelle brought up the point how you become that role. Do you use? I could tell when you just saying it kind of clicked. Like I get it now because you become.
Absolutely. What I like, if I could give an insight into acting for people that they don't know about or don't think about, which is you create the world so strong in your head and in your heart, like a psychologist, that it induces the behavior. I have a relationship with Sally because I've seen her throughout my life. I know her from media. We know each other personally.
Yeah.
If somebody did harm to her, I wouldn't think about how I would react.
Yes.
Yes. It would be informed by the relationship there. Or actually just being in here with all of you, as wonderful as you've been to me, and as nice as if I saw someone do harm to you, my reaction would be like, wait a minute, I don't know why I said harm. That seems so threatening. So I use that in my acting all the time.
So who would you say would have been that big influence in your life? Because I know that coming up is always someone that you're watching, as you're growing, to influence you to want to become who you are, to become the great actor that you are today. Who would you give that credit to?
It's a multitude of different people. First, my mother and father.
Wonderful.
They told me, we have a mantra in my family: can't die 3 days before the creation of the world. Don't ever tell me you can't do something.
Wow, I love that.
I love that one.
I love that.
The other was, there are people that do not have your best interest at heart.
Yes.
Right?
So,
they didn't make it specific. They said they will define themselves for you, no matter who they are, young, old, black, white, rich or poor, male or female. There are people that do not have your best interest at heart, and they will show themselves to you. And when they show themselves to you, that's one less person you have to deal with. don't deal with them. Don't give in to the bait. Don't fight back with them. I say, okay, eliminate them.
Wow.
And so my parents gave me those mantras that I live by. As an actor, I would say Roscoe Lee Brown.
Okay.
Roscoe Lee Brown and James Earl Jones, two
Wow.
great orators.
Yes.
I pride myself on trying to be an orator like them. They're also great actors because they really inhabited their roles. And there was a concert series down here called that Moses Hogan, a great pianist, God rest his soul. He went to Noka with me just before I got there. He curated with the Louisiana Philharmonic a concert in black that featured black artists every year on the calendar for the symphony. And he had Roscoe Lee Brown come and do the oration and narration for one program, and I got to meet him then. And so that made me know, okay, this is something that I want to do and possibly could do.
Amazing.
And I understand that we may have on the line right now Anthony Bean, and you know Anthony
yes.
Bean, you go way back. Hi, Anthony. Hello, Anthony.
Wendell, how you doing?
We can hear him in a headset somewhere, but we don't hear him in a
Yeah,
speaker.
we don't have the speakers, so
But I can tell you, Anthony, first of all, I'm glad Anthony is online because Anthony is one of the first people. When I was going out at Noka, you had to go out into the community and take classes or work in different theaters. And there was a theater on Laveroux Street called Ethiopian Theater.
That's true.
And it was
Can
run
you
by
hear me?
Anthony Bean.
Hello.
Anthony.
And Anthony, hello, Anthony, can you hear me?
It's very distant, very faint.
It's very faint, but he can hear me. But Anthony was one of my first teachers here.
Wow.
And I remember taking classes with Anthony on Laperouse Street at the Ethiopian Theater. And the different
This is true. This is true.
the different styles and different things that we can do. So we have Anthony. Anthony was one of my first influences also when it comes
Wow.
to theater.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. So Anthony, I want to publicly thank you.
Can I say, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes.
But can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, Wendell, we are so proud of you. And the theater community are so proud of you. You know, so many have went away and never came back. But you not only came back, but you're investing in this community. That is saying so much, and you're still in the business. That is saying so much from not only your passion, your heart, but your mindset. And that is so important because we have a deficit here. Well, we have a deficit in this country. But we see that we have a deficit here in New Orleans. You're trying to make a difference.
So,
we are
Anthony,
so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm always using your name and with my students. Always tell them that you once walked this way. And what are you doing now? And whether it's The Wire, whether it's Treme, and now I understand you're doing B.B. King.
Yes,
I don't know if it's a movie or television.
It's going to be a movie,
but I'm gonna have
B.B.
my
King movie.
lined up to see
And
it.
that's what we're going to talk to you about right now.
I'm so proud to say that I once knew you, taught you, and,
Yes.
and to see that what you're doing now for this community is a godsend.
Well, I don't see our relationship as.
Thank
Thank you very much, Anthony. I appreciate it. I don't know if everyone got to hear that or if it's online. Anthony,
It's online.
So I'm glad that the audience gets to hear that. Anthony has built what is one of it's a gift from God. Really, it's godlike when you share your gift with others, especially with children, and bringing them up and preparing them to enter a business. I worked with one of his students, Tony. I not only worked with Anthony, but the students are a reflection of how dedicated he is.
Wonderful.
Not only to the art, but to the city, and then also to the craft. And right now, young man Tony, who's working up in New York right now, waiting to get back to work as we're in this pandemic. But I see it as a continuum, Anthony. I just got back from Rome, where I was working. I'm doing Jack Ryan right now, and then at the end of this pandemic, and probably in the third or fourth quarter, I'll be doing this movie called The Thrill Is On, about this relationship this musician had with B.B. King. Something like, around midnight, you see these two musicians, and so I'll be playing B.B. King in that. And then Jack Ryan on Amazon. But I'm still a part of New Orleans, so I'm still here. So we just honored Anthony for all the work that he's doing. And actually, Anthony, I helped with the campaign to make sure that the Anthony Bean Theater was still funded and working. So I work with them all the time.
And thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us. Anthony Bean, Anthony Bean Community Theater. And Anthony Bean, you hear his voice quite often on Let's Live Radio.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Yes.
Because he has inspirational messages for our listeners. I want to talk to you about the B.B. King docudrama that is coming up. What do you think about the role of playing such a legend, B.B. King?
It's an honor. It's an honor. I got to meet him before he passed.
Wow.
And it really is a movie. It's less of a biopic. Like I said, it's on par with this movie that Dexter Gordon did a couple of years ago called Round Midnight, where you see this little French boy who's influenced by this musician that he hears, and the impact of their friendship and how it influenced him for the rest of his life. And so this is about a story about this club owner who was just trying to come about and build his life and build his career, and he had a chance meeting with B.B. King, and B.B. King said, "I'll come and play your club." And then the impact that had on him and the friendship that came out of that, and what bore out of that. And so it's really a study in friendship and family, where one of the friends just happens to be one of the most iconic musicians in the world.
Do you think?
Well, we're going to have to shoot it next year, so it'll probably be a year after that or so.
Do you think knowing him is going to make a difference in this role? I mean, it's a difference playing someone that is that you've never met, but you have an opportunity and you actually met him. You spoke with him. He gave you his blessing on it. Do you think that's going to impact you even stepping into that role in a different way?
Oh yeah, it gives you. It gives you a greater responsibility. So many people were familiar with him. So many people were familiar with his music. So many people were familiar with him as the man, as the icon.
Yes.
So you have a responsibility to replicate that. But then you have the responsibility of making sure that whatever the scene is about, whatever the movie is about, to tap into his humanity even more. So it's a duality. I see it as just a different challenge, not one that is greater or lesser than playing a fictional character. The greater than is the fact that you can't just create something on your own without recognizing all that he gave.
Right,
So,
that's correct.
It's a great challenge.
So when can we look forward to seeing it? When will it be coming out?
So it'll probably be filmed at the end of next year.
Okay.
And be out in 2022.
22.
Yeah. So next year, I'm filming. What I'm filming now is when I leave here, I go to Budapest, Hungary.
Okay.
And I'm shooting Jack Ryan, the third season of Jack Ryan on Amazon.
Wow.
And so I'll be living all next year in Budapest. Last year I was living in London, doing Death of a Salesman.
Yes.
Well acclaimed, well rewarded.
Yeah, it's a great play, a great challenge. It's the American Hamlet, really, and was nominated for an Olivier Award, which is the equivalent of a Tony.
I want to move on to something else that I just saw on HBO, Between the World and Me.
Yes.
Ta-Nehisi Coates, based on his book, and hard-hitting. And it made me recall something. It was his letter to his son.
Yes.
Based on his letter to his son about coming of age as a black person in the United States. And it reminded me of when I had my first child. And we had been waiting for this child 5 years. It took us to have Judith. As I held her in my arms, all of a sudden I started to cry. And then I continued crying. I went through and people were saying postpartum blues, you just get over it, take your vitamins, you'll be fine. And one day, my father said, Sally Ann, tell me, why are you crying? And I stopped and I thought, and I said, because I can't protect her.
Right. Right. You realize what was so impactful about that book, it tapped into that very feeling that you had, very personal for you. Great pieces of art, especially like that novel, recognizes the humanity in all of us. And what makes it classic is long after we're gone, it'll still speak to people. It'll speak to people years from now, because the humanity and the truth of it is such that it can't be denied.
Yes.
Even people who are not of the experience, who are not people of color, who do not have to go through it, were so moved by the book, Between the World and Me, and hopefully the film that we did, because they understand the humanity in it and recognize that humanity in themselves. Thereby, by the grace of God, go I, and for me to say nothing or be silent, I am complicit in all of the harm that it does. One of the lines in that book that just grabbed me is that we have a great tradition in America of destroying black bodies. That is a tradition. It's not a crisis. It's an ongoing tradition, whether it's coming out in police brutality or organized sort of rationalized death penalties, or over time letting people, keeping the access away from decent health care, or having biases in health care, where people, I have a very dear friend who I want to say his name, Michael Boudreaux, in a car accident in Alexandria, and was sent home after the car accident with the knowledge that they found that he had COVID. And he died at home. That would not have happened. That would not have happened if he wasn't a black man.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And so those disparities is what that moment in that book speaks to, when a parent has to tell the child, like my parents told me, there are people in this world who do not have your best interest at heart.
Yes, yes.
And that has been memorialized in our country, not by chance or happenstance, but very deliberately. What we learned this summer, and what this book, Between the World and Me, speaks to, is we have to be as deliberate when it comes to dismantling it. There will be people to say, no, slow your roll.
They said
There'll
that
be
to Martin
people that
Luther
say,
King.
I don't believe you.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
believe your
Yeah.
lying,
Yeah.
their lying eyes. There are people who watch the George Floyd
Yes.
video and blame him for his own death.
Correct.
Wow.
But we
Right.
also saw people of all races around the
together.
world
Coming
Yes.
together.
Together.
Like
saying
never
this has
before.
got to stop.
Yes.
So do you think that we're now in a different world now? Are we moving in a different direction?
Absolutely. But I like to put it like this. That ugly part of human nature is like a chronic disease. And so our aspiration is to fortify ourselves with the tools for whenever it flares up, how to defeat it, to give it less opportunities to flare
Yes.
up, less opportunities to grow. So you change the structure of
Yes.
things. I tell people, fight to legislate a change in law and procedures and protocol. Leave the hearts and mind to me as an artist. Don't try to change their hearts and minds. Leave that to me. Change the law. Make sure that we don't give them that out.
And I just want to commend you for just even being bold, taking the courage, because I think in all of our lives, whatever arena that we are in, I believe we have a responsibility, but not everyone takes that responsibility. So I do commend you for doing that. Myself and my husband also with 4 children and having to, and not just a son, but with my daughters,
Yes.
to have a conversation with them. It's heart gripping. I was reading, and you talked about your dad having the talk with you.
Yes.
And I love that article that I read. So at that moment when your dad was having the talk, did you think, well, Dad doesn't know what he's talking about, he's trying to prepare you, but what did that feel like when you finally stepped into it? I saw you talked about on the playground with someone named Chet. I was kind of doing a little.
That was
And
in
you were-
Kenilworth, not too far from here. And
did
Chet-
you really think this is really happening? Dad prepared me for this.
My dad, what she's speaking about is my dad said, hey, listen, he said, let me just tell you. He said, there's going to be a group of white boys that come at you as a group. Always as a group. This is when I was first being bused to Osborne. It was my first interracial sort of situation. He says, they're going to be some, they're going to come to you as a group. He said, and you're going to get your butt kicked. And I said, what? He said, yeah, you're going to get your butt kicked. He said, but when they're kicking your butt, you make sure you hold the biggest one or the leader, and you kick his butt. And then when that happens, they'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, what is he talking about? Right, I got off the bus. They said, Wendell, I was ready to fight. So
You're
it went
ready to
on,
swing.
and it didn't happen. It didn't happen until a few months later, when someone said we were playing Kill the Man with the Ball. That wonderful game young boys come up with to just hurt themselves. And out of nowhere, this one kid said, the N-word against the whites, right? Blacks against the whites. And I was just like,
What are you
it
talking
was just
about?
three of us.
Right. We just playing ball. What's going on?
So we actually, and they circled us, and he was the leader.
Wow.
Wow.
And all of a sudden it clicked. And I was like, oh, this is it.
This is the moment. This is the moment.
Oh, and I was so happy that I recognized it. And I was like, yeah, come on, Chet. Oh, kick your butt. Come on. And they got confused. And I was so crazy that by the time he said, we're going to come in on 3-1, I was like, 3, come on. Right? And they ran, and by the time he got to 3, I had scared half of the kids out of it. Right? And the two brothers with me were like, "Oh man, Wendell is crazy."
He crazy.
And
Wow.
I grabbed Chet, and oh man, I just waylaid and I just went off on him. And sure enough, 2 years of
He left you alone,
classmates, friendship,
Yeah.
all of
Everything.
that.
You became
Wow.
friends.
Yeah, we all were friends and stuff,
Yeah.
And he
Wow.
said, Chet said, yeah, we got them, leave them alone. I was like, oh yeah, I got you. Right? And it was crazy. It was real. It made me think about how, especially with the third rail of race, I'm thinking I was 10, 11, right? 5th grade, so it's 11. And Chet was only saying something that he heard from home. It took him 2 months to go, oh, I guess this is where we gang up on black kids, wasn't it, right?
Yeah.
Which is an ugly part of human nature.
Yes.
But it's human.
It's
It's
human.
I
human.
always tell people it's human. So Chet and I, it's the worst way to engage with someone. But once that engagement happened, we were able to get to the good part of human nature.
Yes.
So I always
Yeah.
tell people when there's a challenge, a racial challenge, let's talk about it.
Let's talk
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you feel. Let's really talk about how you feel.
Right.
And saying how, I'm going through it now. Actually, right before this, I'm involved, I'm not supposed to say it publicly, but I'm involved with the League of Regional Theaters in America and the document that they're putting together as an answer to the George Floyd racial reckoning
Wonderful.
and realizing
Okay.
the racial inequities in theater. So we're writing a document now
Awesome.
that everybody's going to sign on. And one of the first things is this is a free space to speak your truth,
Wow.
And theaters are like, I don't feel like I've been racist. I don't feel it. I said, let me explain to you how it's not your intent,
Yeah.
but the impact is always greater than what the intent is. It may not be my intent to hurt you, but the harm of the impact will be greater than any incidental intent that I have. So I always have to remind them, I'm not speaking about your intent. I'm speaking about the impact
Amen.
that it has had on artists of color.
The impact.
So what advice, since you have had your dad talk with you and you growing up, what advice would you give to parents that are listening today that have to have that talk with their children, like myself? What advice would you give to them to start that conversation? Because we need to do that today, even more, with so much going on now.
You're absolutely right. But it's not their responsibility to start the conversation with someone who's bringing harm.
Okay.
Okay.
It is their responsibility to say, you are doing harm to me,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Now I got to get back on track of doing what I need to do for myself. I remember I had a good friend, Stanley Crouch, also unfortunately a victim of COVID, great writer. Stanley would always say, I tell the kids, they come home and say, man, my neighborhood is tough, it's corrupt, man, I got to get through, the gang is trying to be. I say, yes, 2 + 2 is what? It's 4. But man, it's hard on me, my dad's not there, my mother's, not available to me, and, nobody cares or loves me. It's like, yes, I understand that. 2 + 2 is what?
4.
It's 4.
Yeah.
There's a truth and reality to where you're going,
Yeah.
that you should express all of those obstacles that are being placed in front of you. But don't allow that to ever get in the way of your truth,
Wonderful.
which is your truth is 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah.
And that you have a vision of what you want to be and who you want to be and the contributions that you want to make in this world. And everything that is placed in front of you is just a challenge that has nothing to do with that. That you have to do everything to get around or through that challenge to get back on track to what you want. And that desire will always be greater than any sort of obstacle placed in front of you.
I love
Anyone, no matter what.
And I'm going to pass this water over to
sorry,
you. I
I'm
know
sorry.
you're getting dry over there.
I'm
We're
getting
talking
dry.
you out, Wendell. Going back to my eldest child, Judith. She was watching Doogie Howser. And she enjoyed Doogie Howser. And all of a sudden, she just burst out into tears. And I said, Judith, what's the matter? They had introduced an African-American character that Doogie Howser had befriended. And, the episodes before, everything was cool, and then all of a sudden, this young man gets in trouble. And that's when she burst into tears. And I said, Judith, why are you crying? And she said, why do we always do things wrong? Or what was the exact word Judith said? She said, why do we do bad things? And I said, we? And she said, yes, we do bad things. I said, does your father do bad things? No. Does your neighbor do bad things? Does pastor do bad things? Right. Teacher do bad things? I mean, she's surrounded by all of these role models that are strong and healthy and decent. And yet, she was looking at this on television. She was rooting for the young man, and then all of a sudden he gets into trouble.
Right.
And so then she asked me this question. Why do they always show us doing bad things?
Oh, wow. That's really good.
Absolutely.
Good point.
Yeah.
That is the thing, the constant fight in Hollywood, which is the negative images that they put up of people of color. And that is our responsibility as artists to change that, to demand a change. And I always remind people, that Hollywood is always promoted as one of the great liberal, progressive bastions in the world, politically. I said, around award show time, so people can give a really heartfelt speech about let's vote or let's do something.
Yeah.
I said, but when you actually look at the material itself, they are not progressive in any way. Right? There's not progressive. I forget the rule or the law, but there's a barometer by which you can judge films.
Yeah.
And when it comes to women, and it's so seldom you can find a role where 2 women are in a scene speaking about something and never mention a man.
Wow.
right?
Wow.
I forget that it's a law. It's a theory or law that says you haven't met this criteria. And it's the same thing with people of color, where we get into this mythology that this is the way it's going to be accepted. Hollywood now has to deal with, especially after this summer, how we see these procedural shows about police officers. We kind of glorify the maverick cop who says, hey, close the door. This is a little illegal. Pop him upside his head a couple of times.
Right, yeah.
He'll give us the truth.
Yeah.
And then he walks out, we go, oh man, boy, ooh, he's something. Oh, he's Dirty Harry, you know? So we've glorified the very behavior that ultimately comes back and haunts us because we are killed by that behavior. And so we have a responsibility, one, as artists, to call it out, and two, to change it. So I look at people who are in positions of creatives who have gotten to the position where they do change it. Ava DuVernay, changing it in front of and behind the camera. Where Queen Sugar shot here in New Orleans, right? Multitude of different characters, showing the full breadth of the black community and black family. And at the same time, she's calling out Hollywood, because you never think about a season done by all white men as directors. So she said, I'm going to do my seasons, all of Queen Sugar's shot only by women directors.
Wow. Yes.
Right?
True. Very true.
Only by women directors and women of color predominantly. And you don't hear about that, right? So they love to promote the mythology that we are not doing anything, right?
Things are happening.
And so that becomes the predominant viewpoint, where they don't realize that there's a multitude of other people. So we have to constantly fight that imagery, that mythology. I prefer to call it mythology in the media. And Sally, as you know, they stir that mythology for ratings. You know, I was accused, I'll put it out there because it's November. Oh, someone just called me out on social media about the work I was doing in Pontchartrain Park and your properties and you doing this and you got the connections at the city. And I'm like, it was an avatar. And I said, I don't know who you are, but obviously you're in the media. Because you're doing this out of nowhere, and it's November. This is sweeps month. So obviously you want me to respond, and they got me, actually. I put out all of these tweets. I was angry at him, and who are you? And I got red. And I'm like, somebody's going to pick this up and go, ooh, local story. Wendell Pierce goes off on.
Yes.
And then I realized, okay, I understand.
We're going to talk to him about WBOK when we come back. Stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
I'm talking too much. I'm sorry.
No, you're talking. I think that